Welcome back to another video for the Linux and SQL series. In this series, I'll be filtering with and, or, and not. Now, I chuckle a bit because of the wording there, but get a bit better. But nonetheless, as far as being a security professional utilizing Linux with SQL and things of that nature, part of the reason of using these tools is to make you more efficient, making you more productive as far as any investigative findings that needs to be done. And you want to make sure the scope is strained as much as possible to not only have all of the information, but the right information with all the information that you need to sift through, especially when it's a larger enterprise. At least that's what I'm typically dealing with as far as larger enterprises with, no matter how much you try to put as much of a scope or strain as much information out as possible to get exactly what you need. There's still quite a bit to sift through. But nonetheless, these videos like these or using the tools like these in these videos could actually showcase how we can at least try, to get it down as much as possible as far as the data that we have to get it down to the data that we need. So nonetheless, neither here nor there, but as a security professional, right, I likely need to analyze some data, right? Now, often finding the specific data, as I mentioned, I need depends on more than one factor. Now, to retrieve specific pieces of information from the database, I can actually filter for multiple conditions, right? I can also filter for what does not match a particular condition, right? Which pertains to me saying before at the beginning of the video, the filters that I'm using and not, right? Now, getting into the exact scenario for this video, right? So I need to obtain specific information about employees, their machines, and the departments they belong to from the database, right? So my team actually needs data to investigate potential security issues and update computers. I'm also responsible myself for filtering the required information from the database. And I'll do this in a few different ways, probably about 5 or 6 ways to get it down to the nitty gritty as far as the data that we have access to. So I'll be like retrieving off-field login attempts that occurred on specific dates, retrieving logins that didn't originate in the country I needed to originate in, information on certain employees, information about employees in particular departments, and also information about employees who are not in the IT department as well. So nonetheless, I can go ahead and get started first with retrieving after hours failed login attempts. So let's say this portion of the investigation, right? My team is investigating failed login attempts, right, that were made after business hours. So I want to retrieve this information from the login activity naturally, right? So I'm going to identify all unsuccessful login attempts after 1800, or I believe 6 p.m. Standard time, 1800 military time, right? So the login time column should, in the login attempts table, should contain information on when the login attempts were made. So let's actually go ahead and get started. Nonetheless, this is actually my favorite part. I like this slightly more than talking, but it's about 50-50, honestly, for me. Log is, I know, right. Yeah. Login in time. Oh, right. And using an and filter, right? There we go. All right, perfect. So the value, just want to take a note also, the values of the true and false are not, you can see the false that I placed in here, and they're not placed in single quotes because they're not string data. They are like Boolean type data, so which is another data type, which I'll get into my standard query language series. But nonetheless, we see quite a bit of failed login attempts of about 19 rows that we have here in our set for that occurred after the time frame that we were looking at. So now what I'm going to do is retrieve login attempts on specific dates. So my team, again, we're investigating a suspicious event that occurred. Let's give it a date. Let's say May 9th, 2022. And I want to retrieve our login attempts that occurred on this day and before May 8th, 2022. So I'm going to use another query to be able to solve this. So it'll look like this here. Let's see. Right. Perfect. So that's also quite a bit in these past 2 days. Let's see. Place in the right. Let's see. It's like it's freezing up here. There it is. There's actually quite a bit as far as attempts, right? As far as the attempts that were made. So actually, let me make sure I put in the right operator. Yeah, yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah, that's quite a bit. With looks like about 5 warnings. But nonetheless, I'm still going to push forward and actually take a look at retrieving some login attempts outside of, let's see, between let's say Mexico, right? Yeah, Mexico. So, oh, looks like actually changed here. Computer or the lab must have frozen. But nonetheless, just going to take a look at retrieving the login attempts outside of Mexico in particular. So now that my team is investigating logins that did not originate in Mexico, I'm going to need to find this information. So let's see. Just going to run an SQL query to retrieve some login attempts that didn't originate, as I mentioned, and thinking about the right operators to use. So if we do here, right? For a while. Oh wow, that's quite a large amount, about 144. Looks like login attempts made outside of Mexico. Now I'm going to take a look at retrieving employees and marketing in particular, right? So what I'm going to do for the next few tasks is actually retrieve the information from the department and office columns from the employees. So I'm going to run another query. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Undo this here. All right. Oh, perfect. So now my team is going to update employee machines, and I need to obtain information about employees, of course. Again, particularly in the marketing department, who are located in all of the offices in the East Building. Right. So excuse me. So now I'm going to write an SQL query to retrieve this information from the employees table and do a few other things with additional operators. Right. So, excuse me. So let's do this guy here. Okay. This is streaming. It's, you know, and okay, so not too bad, right? So let's take a look. Right, yeah, not too bad. Only about 7. All right, so now I'm just going to retrieve some employees in finance or sales, right? So my team needs to, let's say, perform a different update to the computers of all employees of the finance or the sales department, and I need to locate information on these employees. So now I'm going to write a query to retrieve the records for the employees in the finance or the sales department. So it's going to look like this here. That's not it. Family. Perfect. Again, not too bad, not too shabby. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's about only 71. Right. But nonetheless, I can now take a look at moving forward to retrieve all employees not in IT, as I mentioned prior. So my team needs to make, let's say, one more update, right? So the update was already made to employee computers in the IT department. And the team needs actually information about employees who are not in the IT department. So I'm going to use a not operator to identify them. So let's see, just going to do here, of course. All right. Oh, okay. All right, not too shabby. So about 161 employees who are not in the IT department. But nonetheless, so this is my portion of the investigation for what I was looking to accomplish today, particularly about the team needing to investigate it, my security team or the security team that I'm a part of, needing to investigate potential security issues and updating computers as well, and me filtering through the required information from the database to get the job done. But nonetheless, I've reached the end of the video, the conclusion or recap. I've, um, I've showcased practical experience in standard query language or SQL to run the queries to retrieve information from a database and applying the and or not operators to filter those SQL queries as well. And this is just, again, the foundation of me compounding into more complex SQL queries. Again, that'll be gotten into on my SQL series, which I do a very, very deep dive into SQL. But nonetheless, until the next video, stay curious, stay secure.